makes the job of somebody like me very difficult. And still, I must give hope, because if people lose hope now, then of course we can't do anything about it. See, he has to double as hair, makeup, wardrobe.
Yeah, because in 1970s, you most focus on about Gombe, about your chimpanzee study. Then suddenly you jump out to carry the bigger world.
That was in 1986.
Yeah. So what happened?
What happened was that the big book that I wrote, The Chimpanzees of Gombe, which took about 2 years to write, and it was all the first 20 years research. And then one of my friends in America, who was head of the Chicago Academy of Science, he said, we should celebrate this with a conference. So he wanted a conference about the great apes, and including paleontology. I went to the conference. So I went as a scientist, really thinking I'd probably spend the rest of my life at Gombe, and left as an activist. It just like that. And at that conference we had a session on conservation, and it was shocking seeing, everywhere where people were studying chimps, the numbers were going down and the forests were being destroyed. But I didn't quite know what to do. So got some money, visited the chimp sites, realized what was happening, why they were decreasing in number, but learned about the problems faced by the African people. Learned why. People say, was it a tough decision? It wasn't a decision, it's something that happened.
So during the transition, what's the biggest obstacle you have to overcome?
Well, for me, the most important was alleviating poverty, so that the people found ways of making a living without destroying their environment. And they realized then that saving the environment wasn't just for wildlife, but for their own future. Reaching the tipping point in 5 years. That doesn't mean it's all over in 5 years. It means it will be very, very hard to slow down climate change if we don't take action now. I'm getting older, there's less time and so much to do.
The sense of urgency. When started, the sense of urgency become more pressing?
Oh, I think it's come gradually, don't you? Gradually over the last 10 years, maybe 20. The species disappearing, the climate heating up, the frequency of hurricanes and storms and floods and droughts, the conflict around the world, the civil unrest, I mean, all of it is, and people losing hope.
When did you first realize that hope is so important? Way
back in late 1980s, when I was meeting young people who said they were depressed or they were angry, and that's because they said we compromised their future and there was nothing they could do about it. So yes, we've compromised their future, but I reckon there was something they could do. And then it all became very clear that if you lose hope, you become apathetic, you give up, you do nothing, and then we're doomed.
So for you, for the past 5 decades, the world become better or worse?
Worse. On the other hand, awareness has grown up, particularly among young people. They're much more aware of the need to. But unfortunately, in some of the very elite communities, like I won't mention places, but children growing up with very rich parents who just swan around private jets and everything. Those children, they don't know. They don't realize the harm that lifestyle is doing to the planet. So getting to them is important. Equally, it's important to get to the very poor, to, somehow give them some hope.
So when deal with the politician or business leader, what did you get from them? How do they think about the world?
Well, the business leaders, I talk to them quite often. And some of them, without question, are really, really trying to become more sustainable. And my favorite story is a CEO of a big international company. And he said, Jane, I really have been trying for the last 8 years to get my company sustainable in the countries where we get our products, in the supply chain as much as possible. That's difficult. In our offices around the world, and in the way we treat our customers. And he said there were 3 reasons. 1, seeing the writing on the wall. We're using up natural resources in some places faster than nature can replenish them. 2, consumer pressure. People are beginning to ask questions. How was this made? Did it harm the environment? Was it cruel to animals, like factory farming? Is it cheap because of unfair wages? But he said, what tipped the balance for me was my little girl, 10 years old, and she got back from school. She said, Daddy, they're telling me what you're doing is hurting the planet. That's not true, is it, Daddy? Because it's my planet. That did it.
Very touching.
You see, that's how you have to go. You have to reach the heart. It's no good trying to argue and fight because they're not going to listen, these people. But if you can sneak into the heart. But how do we persuade governments? How do we persuade business? They don't seem to care. Oh, I'll be all right. I'll be dead before it gets too bad. But don't you care about your children? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Well, it may never happen. You know, I mean, I heard with my own ears, President-elect Donald Trump said, climate change is the biggest hoax in human history. He said that.
Yeah.
And he's going to be president. And his chief advisor will be Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the only person who's attacked me on social media because when I'm talking about the problems we face, I always say to have unlimited economic development on a planet with finite natural resources and a growing human population doesn't make sense. We've got 8 billion of us roughly on the world today. By 2050 it'll be about 10 billion. What's going to happen? I've never said more than that. And Elon Musk accused me of wishing for human genocide on social media. He's going to be the main advisor to Donald Trump. I mean, what do you do? And then all these political leaders, they all get together and they make their little plans and it's like I'm reminded in Shakespeare's, we petty men creep under their huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. And so I just thought, that's exactly what it's like.
So many people feel so powerless.
Yes. Makes the job of somebody like me very difficult. And still, I must give hope, because if people lose hope now, then of course we can't do anything about it.